Hey everyone, Nick Engvall here. Before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you about some of the people that make the sneaker history community and this podcast possible. It's more important than ever to think about who you give your money to when you're buying clothing to go with your kicks. Our friends at Guilty Goods started their brand with a goal of giving back, especially to the communities that make sneaker culture possible. With every purchase from Guilty Goods, at least 10% of the proceeds are donated to organizations like Big Brothers and Big Sisters, the Susan G. Komen Foundation, the Movement for Black Lives, and many more. You can save 30% on your order by using the code HISTORY at guiltygoods.us. Again, that's history at guiltygoods.us for 30% off, and you can feel good about your purchase knowing you're supporting a meaningful cause. Sneakers are all about presentation, and if you're like me, displaying your kicks at home or in the office is just as important as when they're on your feet. Sneaker Throne makes sneaker display cases featuring customizable LED lights, drop-side cases to showcase the entire side of the shoe, not just the heel or the toe, the whole shoe. They've also got display cases for trading card collectors and hat collectors. To me, it's the perfect way to display your collection. You can save at least 10% on your Sneaker Throne order by using the code HISTORY at sneakerthrone.com. That's history at sneakerthrone.com. If you're a Patreon supporter or a member of our Discord community, you already know about Kicks with V hot sauce and his small batch, locally sourced hot sauce. V has been one of the biggest supporters of sneaker history and the podcast since the early days. He's currently the defending champion in our community trivia nights competition. Kicks with V hot sauce has been a huge hit with the community. You can save 10% on your order by using the code SneakerHistory10 at kickswithvhots.com. That's SneakerHistory10 at kickswithvhots.com. Now, you're probably here because you like sneakers, and if you join the Discord, you know our community is about so much more than that. Whether it's the marathon-like community calls, trivia night debates, the in-person meetups, or just sharing our favorite experiences, we found that although we have such different backgrounds, we all have some unexpected shared passions. Not only does the entire community look out for each other when it comes to releases, we're like a support group for life in general. You can join the Discord community for free by heading to the show notes of this episode. After you're done listening to this episode, tell someone you like their kicks today. You never know how far a simple compliment can take you, and we all know how good it feels to have someone show their appreciation. Now let's get into today's episode.
Jordan trying to shake off Starks. Oh, what a move!
James with no regard for human life. Final seconds. Bryant for the win. Iverson against Gill. The crowd on its feet. Allen for the win.
Welcome to the Sneaker History Podcast.
What up, what up? Welcome to the Sneaker History Podcast. Got a good show today. Me and Robbie going to go deep on, I would argue, one of the most important sneakers of all time. But before we get to that, how's it going, man?
It's good. I feel like I'm Kobe. I'm putting the 1-2 on Scotty. Break down the defense. Lob it up. You're Shaq. Dunk. Shaq face. Running up the court. I'm good. Good energy today.
Well, before we get into the show, the main topic, what are you rocking copping this week?
The meat and taters, if you will. Man, so this joint right here, the Pro Leather Dr. J /ABA anniversary. We're going to have other shoes we talk about today with Velcro, but sometimes Velcro is cool. Sometimes it's not. This is a cool Velcro moment. I like these. I don't know why, but these are some sweet shoes. The ABA ball inspiration on the back. I wore them during the Philly game. I wanted to have something like Philadelphia-esque. I could have gone for some questions, but I'm trying to entertain myself. So I need to go next level with myself. So I'm going to go get these Philly, because the inside's red. So it's perfect Dr. J / perfect ABA. Just, I love when things have double meaning, right? Double entendre. Yep. Like, this is the doctor and the league. Good stuff, man. This high quality sneaker. When it comes to Coppin, I don't know. Always Kobe's, but I'm interested in the gray toe low. The question gray toe low. That's a beautiful shoe. I know you're a fan of low top questions for the summertime, but I'm incredibly blessed. I've been going through and just like donating clothes and going through the closet and just like reorganizing stuff. And it's just like, I have a lot of shoes. So like sometimes There doesn't have to be a Coppin. There doesn't have to be a Coppin in your life, sir, madam. Sometimes you can just don't let the FOMO get you. You're not missing out every time. Sometimes you just don't need to buy anything. So maybe I don't buy anything this week. Maybe I do, but nothing really on the radar.
So true.
Look at how blessed you are in the back. All the beautiful shoes. I see the Grant Hills. So the Grant Hills, talk crap about Fila all you want. You can see that shoe from a mile away in a good way. So it's like,
Well, I didn't even, we didn't talk about what we were wearing until we sat down, but I'm actually a little bit different style of Velcro, but I was wearing Chucks today, but the neighborhood, what is it? The motorcycle joints from a few years back.
Yes.
So,
yes.
But yeah, that's got the 4-foot strap on there.
That's a cool shoe.
Been one of my favorites. I actually also just love the black logo. It used to be, I have some old made in the USA Converse from the 80s and 90s, and they had the black label on the back, but I always like that one. But as far as Coppin, I haven't gotten any of the new Griffies, and I would love to get a pair. So I'm really hoping I saw that Just Fresh Kicks posted pictures of the black freshwaters. So it's like black with the green on it, with the teal on it or whatever. So I think that'd be top of my list as far as what I've seen recently. But
that shoe's crazy. I brought it up in a past episode. The resale on the freshwater ones or homes, whatever you want to call it, crazy, annoyingly. People I got my pair. I don't know when I'm going to wear them. I'm almost borderline inclined to sell them, but I've never had a pair of Griffies. And I told myself when the opportunity comes, I'm going to buy that shoe. So I finally did. So a man of my word to myself, I kind of can't get rid of them, but also they're at the bottom of the rotation, very bottom of the rotation. But people should be able to get that shoe way more easily. It's the state of sneakers, right? Because those shoes would typically sit. The Griffey Retro, I don't know, an older colorway of Air Max that's not a collab. Yep. Just everyday good Nikes. Yeah, man, I'm hoping you're able to get a pair. I said it in the past episode, the Griffies are really kind of climbing on the resale market, and that's an everyday good type of Nike, like a OG colorway of a non-collab Air Max or a good old Dunk. Those kind of shoes just kind of should be available all the time, and it's a bummer they're not.
Yeah, I agree. It's also just weird because that shoe, I can't remember the last, I think maybe 2012 or something, I bought a pair, and I definitely didn't pay full price for them. They were,
oh, hell no.
They were a shoe that definitely hit the outlets or went on sale at Foot Locker or whatnot. So
call me a hater, but that's not a cool shoe. The Griffey, I think in retrospect, came out, 95, 96? It hasn't aged well, in my opinion. It's big, it's bulky, the strap's dung, but he was so important. The nostalgic ties to the shoe. The Ken Griffey cards, the Ken Griffey posters, the Ken Griffey, everything in the 90s. He was so big that people want a part of that, even if it's not the quote unquote coolest shoe in the world now. And resellers know that and can play off of it and manipulate it to their advantage. 45-year-old Dan doesn't really buy a lot of shoes, but his friend told him that retro came out. He's going to go on StockX because he saw a YouTube commercial a month ago and go pay a stupid price for a pair of Griffies because he's just an average Joe feeling nostalgic. And it sucks.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird time for all this stuff. I'm not really sure how everything's going to play out or change.
It's not sustainable.
Yeah, I feel like we're in a weird spot where it's there's no way that this can kind of carry on the way that it's been going. And there's just not as much demand out there for shoes as the resale market makes it seem, right? The Griffies are a great example, right? the older I get, the lazier I get. Like I'm on my way to Stan Smith, 3 Velcro straps and like, that's it. Right. Because I just don't like the effort of putting shoes on at this point. I'm like, whatever. Maybe that changes when I'm like back into some sort of normal life again. But Griffey's are always going to be one of those shoes that it's just not a slip on, slip off shoe, right? It's work getting that shoe on. And I think it's dope because I was a big Griffey fan. I'm a huge baseball fan. So like, it'll never not be cool to me. But the times that I would actually choose to wear it are few and far between at this point compared to like, anything else that's easier to throw on.
It was a simpler time in the early 2000s where you could just wear a really big pair of cargo shorts and a jersey that matched the colors. And I think now it's harder. It's like, unless you're going for like a short and like an ironic kind of retro 90s outfit, you could throw those on. But you're right. It's not an easy wear. There's a reason why there's pull tabs on the tongue and the heel, because that's a design purpose, not a design choice. What else we got going on before we jump into our main topic? I think we have a pretty big main topic, though, a pretty long main topic.
We do, but I have to ask, did you see the pictures of those racer blue 3s yet? That are like, look like the fragments?
Oh, yeah, I did.
So there's like new photos out, and I don't know if they are like just from a terrible fake site, or the elephant print just looks whack. I don't know if you saw that, but like, I probably saw it on Sneaker News or whatever, but it's so bizarre that like we now see all this stuff from fake sites, like on a regular basis. And like, the optimist in me is like, there's no way that's actually the production model, right? Like, they had to have come up with a better version. I just find it really weird.
I mean, I found some official photos here, and the elephant print looks like a sketch of elephant print. Like, not actual elephant print. I get what you're saying. It's off-putting. The razor blue part is cool, but honestly, they just did this colorway with Carolina blue, the UNC 3s. They just did this colorway. I mean, it's the fire red 3, just with blue.
Yeah.
Yep. It's just like, I mean, it's stupid to throw shade at Jordan Brand for doing this. Reebok has a question with Power Rangers on it coming out. So honestly, you're just using the same question and it's putting Power Rangers on it. Every brand reuses their flagship models over and over again. That's how they stay flagship models. Yeah. But the 3 in particular, I feel like just gets, this is a 3. Let's put a color. They're going to buy it. Yeah. This is a 3. Put a color on it. They're going to buy it. Yeah. It's just like, we don't care. It's going to work every time. And it's just like, I sold, and I didn't tell anybody this, it broke my heart. I was going to take it to my grave. I sold my cool gray 3s. I made $7 on StockX. So I just wanted my money back. They were made so poorly. I put them on my feet. The top of the tongue was so jaggedy, and they stitched it wrong. It was stitched incorrectly. It was crooked. It was boxy. On my foot, it didn't look right. And I've wanted that shoe since 2005? Yeah. I've wanted that shoe for so long. I was so happy to get it. I was ecstatic. And then I actually put it on my foot to wear, instantly took it off and listed it on StockX. It was not even a question. I was like, these are unwearable. It sucks, but I can't wear these. Like, it sucks. And it's like, I love Jordan 3s. I love that colorway, but they didn't try. And it's just the tongue, man. Like, you know how the stitching's supposed to be on the tape, the little bit of the lining and then the felt. This was all lining, going over, and the felt was behind it. It was so wrong. Ugh.
Yeah. I mean, the quality stuff, I mean, we'll probably get into that on tonight's topic too, because it's so weird how so many brands will just mail it in on certain stuff, right? They're just like you said, It's a 3, it's got nice colors. it's going to sell. It doesn't have to be good quality. It doesn't have to be like anything special. People will buy it, or resellers will buy it, and eventually they'll all get out into market and everything is like normal, right? But then there's sometimes where it's like a shoe is sitting at a discount and then you see it in person and you're like, how is this shoe even made for this money? Because it's so good of quality.
I'm not going to lie. Those Pro Leathers I have, they feel like they could be a Gucci shoe. The toe box feels supple enough and the shape of it's right. That's a $90 shoe. I think 110 upcharge because of the ABA thing. Like, that's nothing. And we get elephant print 3s that look like Tinker sketched it. That's the new thing. It's going to be a sketch of the Tinker sketch of the sketch on the shoe.
It's like Inception levels of.
It is.
Yeah.
And then like you just have some shoes with like, so secrets out. We're talking about Converse today. For the most part, Converse is fantastic from a material standpoint. Not every shoe has to be thought-provoking. Not every shoe has to be like a really good tie-in, like a Griffey to your childhood or into a sport or a band. Sometimes you just want like a good pair of shoes. That's why canvas Chucks have been sold the exact same way since like what, 1920, I think 27. Converse is a rubber company at its heart. So it's just like, all right, make a good rubber shoe with good canvas on it. You don't have to change anything for almost 100 years. But then like you have a good idea at Jordan in the 80s and people love it. You build the fan base and then you spend every decade since then trying to make it cheaper and trying to maximize the profit margin off of something. And that becomes the game. Of course, Chucks cost more than they did in the 20s or the 50s or the 70s or the 90s. But the quality is always the same. It's literally the same shoe. And it's like, I'll take consistency over playing into my nostalgia and giving me a bad shoe.
Well, definitely. And it's even crazier because if you think about like all of the businesses that we, you know, as Americans, at least air quotes here, love, I think of like Starbucks, right? The reason why Starbucks is successful is because you know exactly what you're going to get, whether you go into a Starbucks in Portland, in Sacramento, in New York, it does not matter. You're going to get the exact same drink and 90% the same experience from that, right? And like for some reason, sneakers, like that's a great point. Converse was I was looking up a little bit. I think it's 1908 was when they first made shoes, right, as Converse rubber company. And then Chuck Taylor came in like right around 1920. And, you know, that the only thing that changed was originally the side patch was leather, right? Like that was like through the 30s. And then eventually, you know, as I guess like the craziest part about that too is they didn't veer away from the formula that worked. They added things to it, right? Like the Jordan 1 should have been, in my opinion, the pinnacle quality that we expected from the very beginning. You know, maybe fix certain things if there are things that need to be fixed, but you could maintain that same quality. And then you can add on top of that and become and go to next levels, whether that's a new model or, you know, like, I mean, I think we've all said it for the past 10 years or so, but like I would happily pay more for great quality shoes that I want to have for a long time than pay, you know, half the price or regular price for multiple shoes that I think the quality sucks on.
I would too. It's like especially in the digital age, it gets harder and harder to do like the quality check because you really do. Shoe being a textile, like it has to have in-hand inspection for you to really get the full vibe of it. Sometimes you'll think a shoe is cool on the internet, but then you get it in hand and you feel how it transitions from the stitching to the leather, to the mesh, or whatever material it is. It's like enjoying the tangible feel of it. And sometimes you feel it, and this is like, you know right away this is bad. It's getting harder to make those choices from a digital standpoint. It's great that a lot of places have free returns, free shipping, free returns. You can try it out. If you like it, keep it. If you don't, return it back. But I will pay $225 for a pair of Jordan 1s if they're the quality of what Converse puts out. And I'm just using Converse as an example, but like they're coming from the same umbrella. They're coming from the same parent company. Yeah. So it's like, man, give me that pro leather stuff on a Jordan 1, charge me more, like fine, but make it something I'm happy to own, not something that's glittered out. So many of my ones are glittered out. I went through the pile just looking at them. Glittered. And it's just like, I think it looks kind of cool, but it's deeply frustrating when it's like, I spent probably like $700 retail total on those shoes. And now a couple years later, they're all wearable. They're good shoes, but they're all completely glittered.
Yeah.
And it just makes
it's so frustrating.
No sense. So on that, it's putting new stuff into old shoes or updating materials to keep up with the nostalgic tastes. We've also said, like, give me a Jordan 1 with Zoom Air on the inside, don't show me the Zoom Air, but it's like, put it in there. Converse is actually starting a new CX initiative, which is going to be a couple different shoes. And why I bring it up now with that tie-in is because they're going to be giving us a lot of the same models we like, but just with updated innards, right? So CX is this foam. And I have here an insole of the shoe we'll be looking at in a moment. And it's pretty much the main topic of today's discussion. But it's just a normal sock liner. These are inside of every shoe. Nikes historically have gotten a little flimsy. This is their new CX foam. And it's plush. It's kind of like Lunar Lawn meets React, but without a distinct performance like goal. So there's like 5 main keys Converse is trying to push, and that's like sustainability, inclusivity, exploration, sport performance, and comfort. So you want to have the sport level performance, but you're not going to be trying to go run marathons. You're not going to be Wilt in your Chuck Taylors, but they're using stuff like this to make shoes like this. So this is the Converse CX. It has the foam I was just speaking of. It's very familiar to the normal Weapon. And it just, you tell me, if you saw these on the street, you being the astute sneaker person you are, let's say you were just an average person and you knew Larry Bird in the 80s. These still invoke the normal like 86 Weapon, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's not too far off.
Yeah, definitely.
We're going to go over different models that have the Weapon name, did some different stuff. And I think we have like 5 or 6 different examples. But of those, this is the first one since the actual 1986 Weapon where I'm excited for a variant of an old shoe. Like this tooling almost would be something I wouldn't be upset about seeing on a Jordan 1 or a Jordan 2. Those 80s models that were bigger and bulkier, the contemporaries of the Weapon. It'd be so cool, man. Something like this with the CX foam, you can kind of get a little dig of it here. You have to wear them to feel it. But you don't have to tell me in the design language that this is like a performance shoe. It's not. It's still like a lifestyle Weapon. But it's been updated through subtle innards. I'm going to keep saying innards because you can do so much in tooling, and I feel like we get focused on what airbag's in it or what foam's in it that we don't think about the bigger picture. It's supposed to be comfortable. So you can put a new foam in here with EVA foam. So 2 things together in a retro look and have an old 86 looking shoe that's ready for some work in 2021. It's like, this is the kind of stuff I would like to see more.
Kind of.
I get we've had the Alpha 1 and we've had like the 1.5. That's trying to incorporate part of a 2 into the 1. That's trying to put a big visual change for no reason. You can put a Zoom airbag inside of a midsole of a Jordan 1 with no problem. This is like a dedicated design change through the tooling while having the uppers still be what we know and love. And I feel like it just hits what I want from a consumer standpoint. I feel like I'm just like showing the shoes praise nonstop, but we spent like at least 20 episodes where there's a comment, just give me the old shoe with just like better stuff and I'll be happy. And it's just like somebody did it. It's awesome.
I mean, it kind of reminds me, it looks like something that would be like a John Varvatos or some kind of like, it looks like a high-end brand or collaboration take on the weapon to me. Just, not having them in hand, like just from a visual, like if I saw it, I would wonder if that's what the case was. Right. And I think that's actually the interesting part about it is like, you don't really see brands doing that much, like I would say that's almost something that they usually reserve for a collaboration or for a, and I'm sure we'll see collaborations on this stuff once the CX stuff comes out. Yeah. But like that to me is like the coolest thing about it in a sense that the brand itself is taking a much bigger chance on that by making such a drastic difference with that tooling. And, I mean, cushioning is like, I don't know, not to be a pessimist, but I feel like any modern cushioning from any of the brands is good at this point, right? If a brand is still struggling to make cushioning, then they're not in the right business, right? Like there's just too many companies out there that do it. There's too many opportunities for them to like partner with people. And at the same time, I love that because I always am going after shoes just to get the cushioning out of them. I mean, I literally just bought a pair of Chucks that actually Matt from the Discord grabbed me a pair of Chucks a couple months back because they have dual zoom, forefoot and heel zoom insoles in them. I don't even need the shoe because it's like, I don't like the color or the style or anything, but the insole to me is worth the $30 that I would pay for that shoe at the outlets to throw in, to your point, to throw in like a pair of Jordan 1s or something, right? It's like no brainer. This is an easy way to just make it a little bit more comfortable for everyday wear.
I'm happy you say that because in 2022, spring of 2022, all Chucks are going to have the CX foam in it. So you're not going to have to go hunting for a comfortable insole to steal out of a discount Converse at the outlet. Every pair is going to have them. And that's a no-brainer to me. Lunar Lawn, they were really pushing that for a while as Lunar Lawn drop-ins as like an actual function. And I love that kind of stuff. What's in those? I see you're trying to pull something.
Trying to see. It's actually just like a regular kind of double stacked insole, basically.
See, everything's going to have this foam in it. And it's like, why don't you do this? Yeah. Why hasn't this been? It's like, I don't get why they stopped having Lunar Lawn in it or stopped telling people why there's Lunar Lawn. Like you said, at this point, any modern cushioning is good. Like, I love the fact that you can get the same kind of like white Chuck from like 1967 as you can now. But why do we need to be sitting on the exact same like polyurethane? Like you can mix it up.
Well, and it's kind of weird because they did the Chuck 2s that came out, I don't know when that was, 5 years ago or something now it seems like, which had all the lunar foam or whatever in it. Basically had like, it was one of the first times the Chucks got like actual Nike tech, right? As like consumers, you didn't really see that very often beforehand, right? It wasn't like now where like we've got Reebok and Adidas co-branding shoes and stuff. I mean, to me, that stuff doesn't make sense at all because it takes away from both brands' ability to kind of stand on their own, in my opinion. But it's such an easy, like, I think like with Chucks, I mean, like Chucks are like my favorite shoe, right? Like the the style to me is like the most universal, like everyone loves it, has a pair of some kind, but it's just not up to, I mean, it's just like if you wear a pair of Chucks for a full day and you go walk around the city, you're going to be hurting by the end of the day. Like that's just how it is. Right.
Luckily they're fixing
yeah. Yeah. And I wonder too, like how, you know, cause I think before we started recording, we were talking about kind of all the different variations. Cause I can't remember what each and every one along the way has had, but there's been so many different versions. Like the first time I got a pair of Chucks that were like the Con Skate Chucks. So the CTS was the first time that I got something that had like a more significant, substantial cushioning in it. And I don't know, that's probably like 10 years ago or 15 years ago when that shoe first came out. But that also was a lot different because they kind of did like padding around the collar and a little bit more padding on the tongue, I think. So it was actually like what you would expect if Chucks were just a skate shoe, right? Like, you know, looking at like Nike SB as the formula to like make a basketball shoe, a skate shoe, like that was it.
And that's where they can succeed though.
Yeah.
So you said that Reebok and Adidas together kind of diminishes both. Converse is always going to be Converse, but just with Nike innards. Like you can utilize the tech and the, you know, in this example, the skateboarding language of the padding and everything, but it's always going to be uniquely Converse because that name is so strong. And Nike doesn't try to put a swoosh on it. Like on the inside, it might have a little swoosh with the zoom, but that's your socks covering it. You know, he's ever going to know. Like that's what's really powerful to me. The different iterations. So we're talking about, there's been many different types of the weapon. And what I think works with these and what I think works best with the new Chucks that have modern, like, you know, the Chuck Taylor 2 or the Lunar Lawn stuff, or there's also like a Chuck CX that has like a more defined, crazier outsole with CX foam. Where those shoes work is this concept of future familiar. It's like it's a mindset that Converse has. So it's like you start with the familiar, right? Like what's going to bring people in to still love the shoe? Like this upper is what brings people in. You think Magic Johnson, you think Larry, you think Isaiah, you think all those great 80s players from the upper, but then you want the future to be what you're actually walking on and using. So through future familiar, you're not losing what made the shoe great in the first place, but you're also not just resting on its laurels and not doing anything new to it. So it's like, yeah, great. The Jordan 1, everybody loves it. I have 18 pairs of them, but you can do new stuff to it without diminishing it. I think the Jordan 1 low cost and stuff I have, nobody would ever know that Zoom insole's in there, ever. And I wear that shoe probably top 10 percentile of my Jordan 1 wears is that shoe because it's comfortable. So the Weapon CX, and there's also another one called the Run Star Motion, which is like a Converse Chuck, but it has really crazy exaggerated design features. You got to see it. I'll show you guys later. But you have to not lose track of the familiar and what brought you in first. But you have to make it new.
Yeah, I think too, like it's nice to, with Converse, it's nice that they're actually, I guess, like hanging on, not hanging on, that's not the right word, but just, you know, keeping that heritage alive, right? Because when we started when you said that we should talk about this Converse Weapon as a topic, right? It's insane to think how popular Converse was in the basketball world. So like Chucks are popular across the world, you know, all over the place, right? And then they still were popular on the basketball court up until like the early 70s. And then you have like Dr. J signed with Converse in 74. And like 2 years later or whatever, they have the pro leather that, you know, basically the shoe that you wore. That is like the pinnacle. That's Michael Jordan, you know, That's LeBron James. That's Kobe. That's the pinnacle player at that moment, right? But he was with Converse his entire career. So then you have all of the other players, right? That follow, arguably Magic is maybe the face of the NBA there for the early 80s or something, right? But you have, like you mentioned some of them, but like Magic, Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Bernard King, Mark Aguirre, Isaiah Thomas. There's just like countless guys wearing that one shoe. And I think it was great because before we started recording, you made the point, right? It's almost like if you took the modern NBA, you have Steph, KD, Kyrie, LeBron. I mean, it's like Jimmy Butler. Like, like it's just insane to think how many people like Converse had at that time. And
wearing the same shoe, not like variants, not like. So Dr. J, there's also the Fast Break, which is one of my favorite Converse models ever. That was more Kevin McHale style. So there's other great models, but there was a point in time from like 86 to like 88, 87, where they're all wearing the exact same shoe. It's not just like, oh, they signed and Magic's in the Magic Johnson weapon and Larry's in the Larry 1 and Mark Aguirre's in the, the MA. No, they're all wearing the weapon and they're all doing stuff together. Like you said, Magic Johnson's maybe probably the face of the league. Him and Larry together, like the Laker Celtic rivalry was the face of the league. You could have that promo literally in newspapers alongside a Converse ad with them side by side. They could be side by side on both pages of the newspaper promoting different things. And it's like, you're never going to see a shoe ad with LeBron and Steph. Like James Harden, for example, has to roll down the Nike logo on his socks, and so does Steph Curry. So for the photos, there's no conflict. The two biggest inarguably, Magic and Larry were the two biggest. Kareem's the best, scoring all the points, whatever. The two young guns, the two most exciting players, were in the exact same shoe, going together going against each other in the finals almost every season. And when they weren't, it was the other Converse players. It was either Isaiah or it's Dr. J and the Sixers. Like, you couldn't escape it. Always an elite Converse athlete in that late 80s that kind of made modern NBA. Without that time, obviously Jordan, but without Isaiah, Larry, and Magic, those three in particular, and Dr. J, like, there's not an NBA now. There's not a LeBron James. There's not. Dr. J was everybody famous before everything was cool. Like, he was cool. He was the definition of cool. The fro, taking off from the free throw line, like the swag.
Do you think that we could ever have will we ever see a brand go back to the idea of having 5-6 guys in a commercial? I mean, take away the fact that like all these guys, we didn't really have signature shoes like that back then, right? Dr. J was kind of the first. MJ kind of like took the torch, but like, I just can't imagine we haven't seen it in a long time, right? Like Nike does it occasionally with basketball, right? Where they're, Fun Police or something like that. But we just haven't seen like hey, this is our whole crew kind of, and Adidas has done that occasionally, but
anything is possible.
Yeah. Like, I mean, they did a lot when they were doing like the team stuff, right? The team signature, the TS line, which was great, but they weren't Billups. They weren't as maybe as the ads weren't as catchy or they weren't as memorable, but I just don't know if we'll ever see a group of people together promoting a product or products in a product line like that ever again. It's kind of crazy to think about that.
It's not even that. So let's use the second coming from Nike. I think it was like LeBron, Kirk Heinrich, Tyson Chandler, Andre Iguodala. Damn, I'm good. It's like off the top of my head, Richard Jefferson, Kenyon Martin, Cool. LeBron's in it. Fucking, you think Kenyon Martin's in the same sentence as Magic Johnson? Like, just the direct star power, like the intense level of direct sunlight on that stage from having Larry and Magic. And then, of course, we all forget Isaiah because he's not Magic and he wasn't on the Dream Team. But the point guard, like right up there, it was back and forth. Who's better, him? He just happened to be about 8 inches shorter than Magic, and that's his only flaw. But just like you can have brands, I was thinking there's one with Chauncey Billups, T-Mac, Tim Duncan, and Kevin Garnett. That's really strong at that time. 2006, I think 2006, I think was about that time. KG's in his prime, Tim Duncan's in his prime, T-Mac's healthy. But like those four together, again, nothing compared. I'm not even bringing up Kevin McHale.
Yeah.
I think he's overrated, but historically the stats don't lie. He's not. He's one of the best players of all time. So it's just like even the fourth, fifth guy in is a Hall of Famer and like a legit Hall of Famer.
Yep. It's wild.
And the commercial, we didn't really bring it up. I'm sure we'll link it and we'll show it on Instagram. But Kevin McHale rapping, Larry Bird's white ass rapping. It's everything you need it to be. And it's magic. It truly is magic. And that's not even, I think, the best part of the weapon. The choose your weapon side by side, Magic and Larry. That's just like Americano. That's not even like sports history. That's not even like shoe history. That's like American history. Yep. It's crazy.
Yeah, man. It's wild to think. I mean, I should have grabbed a pair, but like the last pair of weapons that I bought, probably like a 2003 release. It was like a Raiders color. Probably, I don't know. They're still like, I mean, they're in the garage, but like they're still wearable. They're still like just a classic shoe. And it's funny because every time I wear them, I always think about like the way people would react, right? Like, and that's partially why my favorite shoe is a Chuck, because Chucks just are kind of low key subtle, right? And if you wear regular Chucks, like nobody really thinks anything of it. But then if you wear something that's like the weapon has just enough style, like of a design that it stands out, right? Like that was the interesting thing too. Like it's really the forefront of like the change from like the Dr. J's, the Pro Leathers, like very basic Chevron logo on the side, depending on where you're at in the world, like the Jordan 1 probably comes in right behind, but the Jordan 1 is super basic too, right? It's a leather shoe. They're just changing up the panels. And then the weapon is like the first,
just the Y
like,
bar.
Yeah. It's like the first step towards like 90s basketball, in my opinion, because the Jordan 1 still looks like an 80s shoe no matter what. Right. But I think the layers,
I like that take a lot.
And like you said, the Y bar, right? Like the layers and the Y bar to the design are something that is super underrated.
And it gives you the look of a heel clip or a heel counter just from the way the overlays lay over each other. And now, I mean, like if you think about it, that's a Kobe 6 heel. That's a really interesting take. The Jordan 1 is definitely an 80s shoe. I can see how this pushes things forward. And what's also funny in this re-release, so the 86, and I love seeing those any 80s marketing. It's like the shoes all laced really funky, like bar lacing, and they're super tall. Like the 86 was super tall. They did when they retroed the weapon in like OG form, so to speak. Early 2000s shoe branding is weird to me. But yeah, 2009 they call it the Weapon 86, but it was definitely like a more of a mid 3/4 than the true high. They also did a 2014 Converse Weapon, which they just added extra branding to it and changed up the vulcanized sole a little bit. They changed cues, I feel like, for a long time. And I think of like the Alpha 1, like at that time, 2007 to like 12, they're just changing stuff on shoes to try to modernize it, but without putting, I feel like, a lot of thoughtfulness into it. It's like, well, duh, of course, you can just put some extra branding on a weapon and call it technically a different shoe, because it is the old shoe just with different branding on it. Or you can make a skate version of the weapon, or you could do the Evo?
Oh yeah.
The Converse Weapon Evo that Kirk Heinrich wore in Chicago. Like, that's more of a performance base, but like you put an air bubble in the back of it. It doesn't make sense. When you do something, and this is not a performance shoe, this is a retro product. Like this, the thoughtfulness, I feel like this type of language reminds me of the Y bar. Like, I don't know why. Just like the curves of it remind me of shapes, and the way that it's grooved, kind of this T area reminds me of a Y. I don't know why, but just like it makes sense. They're not just changing. I think of the Jordan Alpha. They did like a ribbed collar with like a diamond pattern on it, and it's why it doesn't serve a great purpose that keeps you going back to the familiar. It's just, I could wax poetic about this. And Puma by proxy did a Kuzma shoe, which I don't know. That's gonna be hilarious 10 years from now that Kyle Kuzma had a shoe. But they did a retro shoe with all of the right cues, but made it look new. It's just not hard. It's thoughtfulness, I guess, is the theme of today's episode. Put some better foam in it. Don't change up the good parts. Change up the bad old parts that need fixing, and just be thoughtful about it.
Yeah, the one thing I would say too, like, I don't know if it's just the weapon itself, but I actually am glad that I'm sure they'll put it on for some of the colorways, but like they did, I think the 2014 ones had weapon written down the side of the Y bar thing, right? And I just thought, like, you don't really need that. Like, it kind of, I don't know. And maybe it's just my memories of the Magic and Bird, the Choose Your Weapon ad and the commercials. Because, I mean, the Choose Your Weapon ad for me and my brother, we ended up trying to, like, remake that ad into, like, car stuff that we did, 25 years ago. And, it was just like one of the side projects that we had, just, making T-shirts or whatever, but, like, putting the two things together and kind of emulating that look and feel of Larry versus Magic, right? Because it was such a like powerful thing to us as kids. And, we're both like 7, 8, years old or whatever when that comes in. And, I guess my brother's a couple years older or younger, but, yeah, it's kind of crazy. I do think, like, I don't know if it's just because I'm a Chuck Taylor fan, but the one thing that I will say that, because you mentioned the Velcro stuff earlier, when they did the Undefeated. So Undefeated launched the Converse Poor Man Weapon in 2009, right?
Yes.
And that was the first time that I can remember seeing, like, Velcro removable logos on a shoe. It was like, and could have just been personal because the first colorway was a black and orange version, but like Undefeated had an Undefeated logo on the midsole, and like to be able to move the labels around and stuff was super dope, because I think the only other time that you really thought about that was from like the Rare Air Jordan 4 and the Undefeateds. Like, it was like, wait, what? That stuff, like, you didn't really think of that as a normal thing. And that shoe actually, I think really kind of at the time, it was the first time that I can think of like Converse getting like a really hyped release, right? When that shoe came out, I missed out on that shoe. It was like, probably $70, $80 retail, and you couldn't find it anywhere for, eBay was like $250 something, which you know, to me at that time, especially, it was like absurd to pay for Chucks. Like there's only like maybe a couple of pair of like Grail shoes, you know, Grail Chucks that I would just put on display just to be like, hey, this is one of the first shoes from like the 1930s or whatever. But like way too much. So it was like kind of a crazy whirlwind of like hype hitting something that normally doesn't, you know, like Chucks. I mean, you have occasional like Off-White, Ambush, some of the stuff, you know, catches fire and people are like crazy about it for a little bit. But usually that's also kind of one of the beauties of the Converse stuff, is that it doesn't always go super crazy, right? It's like, even if it goes and sells out, the resale price on it is just a little bit over, and it's just more attainable.
You know what the biggest flex is, and maybe we can end on this. The biggest flex of Converse is that they don't have to have sponsorship or collabs. People just wear those shits anyway. Like celebrity Mark Zuckerberg, bet you has a pair of Chucks. That fool has zero swag. Arnold Schwarzenegger probably has a pair of Chucks. The Rock, Admiral Levine, Obama. Yeah. I'm just thinking of random people. They all probably own a pair of Chucks, though. Yeah. Everything, and they'll wear them in public without being paid. Kamala Harris, she's famous for her love of the Chuck Taylor. It's like, you don't have to have a collab when everybody loves your shit. You don't have to. They just wear it.
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy, man. So
be on the lookout. TBD on the release date of the CX. There's a couple other models like I alluded to earlier. There's a Chuck CX, which is the exact same Chuck Taylor we know, but with the CX foam in it. There's the Runstar Motion, which is a really crazy, exaggerated Chuck Taylor-like shoe. And then there's the Eon Active CX, which is, think of like a Jordan Delta. We'll talk about this. Think of like a RS Fast meets a Jordan Delta meets a Huarache meets a Converse shoe. And you have a good model. But any parting thoughts for you, Nick?
No, man, I think covered everything. I'm still looking for those undefeated poor man weapons. If anybody's, got a pair, 12 or 13.
What's funny is I've almost bought, and I just don't have, there's literally zero reason for me to buy them. The undefeated Chucks, the black with the blue and then the white with the blue, they sit there. They're on Undefeated's website right now. And I almost buy them every week, but it's like, I don't need another pair of shoes, but I want them. Yep. It's just, it's fucked up. Sneakerhead problems.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, man, where can they find you? Where's Nick?
At Nick Engvall on all the platforms. More importantly, just follow at Sneaker History. Subscribe to us on YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr. I don't know where else. Facebook.
Pornhub. Everywhere.
We're everywhere.
I've noticed that the YouTube channel is having quite a renaissance of new stuff on there. It's a lot of fun. So if you're not on the YouTubes, check it out. It's at Sneaker History Channel. It's not at Sneaker. It's the Sneaker History Channel, but go check it out. A lot of good stuff. I noticed you put like the Jordan 1 rotating display. My Inside the Closets are there. These episodes are there. If you're listening right now on like a podcast app or something, you can watch them at home. Lots of fun stuff. You can find me at RAHBEE702. But I appreciate everybody's time and listening to us wax poetic about the weapon.
Yep. We'll catch you on the next one.
See everybody. Thanks for being here.
Hey everyone, this is Nick again. Before you take off, do us a solid and head over to Apple Podcasts to leave us a review. Give us a rating on Spotify and Amazon Music, and make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel because we have even more video content coming soon. Speaking of new content, we have an amazing community of sneaker enthusiasts that hang out in our Sneaker History Discord on a daily basis. While sneakers is a connection point that brought us all together, we've all discovered countless shared passions that we have in common with each other. We recently launched a couple of new podcasts directly from our community. One of them is a Formula One podcast. If you're an F1 fan like me, the Exhaust Notes podcast is your weekly fix of Formula One fun. It's hosted by myself, Rohit Malhotra, and Todd Yates. New episodes drop every Tuesday. I've been wearing fitted hats for years and collecting my favorite teams since I was a little leaguer. It has been awesome to see so many new fans getting into fitteds in recent years. Crown and Stitch is our new talk show about fitted hats with Dexter, Keith, and myself, where we talk about fitted hats, snapbacks, throw in some obscure hats because we all kind of like some funky stuff once in a while, don't we? Copping, collecting, and so much more. New episodes drop every Wednesday. Hit the links in the show notes for this episode to give our new shows a listen, and be on the lookout for more new podcasts dropping soon. Last but not least, tell someone you like their kicks today. You never know how far a simple compliment can take you, and we all know how good it feels to have someone show their appreciation. Thank you all for the support, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.